Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, where the state of our industry can be about change. So let's get right to what everyone is talking about. In today's highly competitive real estate landscape, top brokers aren't just chasing the biggest brand name or the highest commission split. They're evaluating something far more strategic, or they should be. Culture, leadership, technology, platforms, marketing support, legal protection, and long-term growth opportunities are all under the microscope. The question has shifted from who will hire me to who will truly elevate my business. And on this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on what experienced, high-producing agents are actually looking for when choosing or leaving a brokerage. From mentorship and deal support to branding power and operational infrastructure, we will explore what separates firms that simply recruit from those that generally retain and grow talent. Whether you are a top agent considering a move, a broker owner building a company, or someone watching the elevation of the industry, this is a candid conversation about what matters most behind the scenes. And here on set with me today are Matthew Mellinger from Brown Harris Stevens, Devin Somack from Living New York Real Estate, and Conchetta Raz from Upward on Recruiting. And they join me now to discuss, but first, let me welcome my listeners and viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate, so let's go behind the headlines and inside the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. We're talking to a lot of pros here today, which always delights me. We're talking about recruiting. We're talking about what top agents, or any agent for that matter, is looking for when they want to change firms or when they want to join a firm first time. It's a very hotly competitive industry out there. You know, we also deal with fluctuating markets, hot markets, in between markets, bad markets, whatever. We're kind of in a weird market right now. I can't really put my finger on what the actual description is. And sometimes when we're not zooming and booming, agents feel like they can be doing better. They want to move and then go to another firm. Maybe it's a commission split. Maybe it's more notoriety. Whatever it may be, we're going to unpack all of that today because, as I often say, moving sometimes is not always the right answer. So again, let's get started. And Conchetta, I'd like to start with you. And let's be honest here about how much of recruiting is marketing, spin versus actual day-to-day support that agents can really count on once they sign on board. I mean, are you being recruited because of the name? I sometimes used to think that I was getting recruited because of my name and because of this show more than anything else. So what really is, when you peel back the onion on recruiting, is it marketing spin or is there really care behind that offer?
Well, Vince, I'd say it depends. There are firms out there that really, leverage their brand, leverage their name, and sometimes they make promises to agents that they might not be able to keep. Especially nowadays with social media and, getting in the press and, even in some instances, television. I mean, there are, these ideas that agents are going to leave their company and perhaps, move over to another company that will be able to offer them more. But at the end of the day, I really think agents are looking for a company that's going to be able to provide the support that they need, provide the brand that they need, and really help them grow in their business. It really should be more of a balanced approach. It's not only about the bells and whistles that a company might offer, but what are the resources within that company? What are the tools internally? What's their tech like? Do they have services for the agents, with marketing, with even as simple as having a manager that they can access when they need someone to, really help them, whether it's on a deal or whether it's a bigger picture, in terms of growth and strategy.
Devin, you run a firm, you do a lot of recruiting, and your firm has grown nicely, you're doing well. What do you look for when you are out there recruiting someone? Is it anything in particular you're looking for? Is it book of business from their past? Is it their potential going forward as future, what is it that you're actually zeroing in on when you're out there looking for new hires?
Yeah.
And I don't mean new hires meaning brand new agents, but just new hires to your firm.
So we've focused on quality over quantity. So a lot of our hires are more strategic in the sense of, what need or, what value add could the agent bring. To Conchetta's point, I think a lot of agencies lead recruiting, front loading it in the sense of big announcements, big promises, glossy decks, big productions on their presentations. But really the true test for both the agency and the agent is 90 days from that recruitment meeting. Is there collaboration between the two? Are you working together? Is there actual business being conducted? Are the agents getting business from the agency? We focus less on like a quote unquote vibe check when an agent is recruiting with us, but more so on, how could we work together in a productive way where we both benefit?
When you actually, when I ran my own company for 4 years and I did a lot of recruiting, I was kind of out of the 5 partners, I was the one who was managing the agents and recruiting agents and whatever else. I didn't know you then, otherwise you would have helped me out. But and actually Conchetta said something this morning on one of your posts about consistency, energy, and follow-up in people that she looks for when she's interviewing people. Does any of that make sense to you, again, versus the book of business? Do you want an energized person who is going to follow up with you and potentially with their customers?
Yeah.
And consistency always, in my opinion, makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, consistency and persistence, right? We're in a sales-driven industry, right? So how you present yourself correlates to how you're actually going to conduct yourself in the field. So absolutely, are they following up? How do they present themselves in person? Even from their email follow-ups and the context that they provide and represent themselves, I think is very important.
Conchetta, so you did post that this morning, and I did read that. Tell us what what inspired that? What is it about that that's important to you as a recruiter, talking to people like Devin, talking to other company heads, and they're telling you what they're looking for? How do you put that all together for them?
Vince, what I think is that when you want to bring someone into your organization, you look for a few key things, right? First off, can they do the job, right? Mm-hmm. Secondly, do you want to be around them? That's where the energy comes in, because you're going to be spending.
Energy is very big in my world.
You're going to be spending time with them, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you feel when you're around them? If you like that feeling, you're going to want them with you, right? So I think that's really important. And yes, of course, follow-up is very important too, because you want to see how someone will behave, not only during the courtship process, if you will, the recruitment process, but just in their business day to day.
Yeah. Matt, you've been here for a long time at Brown Harris Stevens. You're also one of our top performers. You have a lot of energy. You're fun to be around. What promises do you think brokerage sometimes routinely make that they struggle to deliver, say, 5 months later, 6 months later?
I think it's twofold, just because I've been on my fair share of interviews where I've taken meetings just to sort of see under the hood.
Exactly.
I come from an ops, marketing, and trading background, so for me, systems, operations, and procedures are incredibly important, because that's really, aside from the brand itself, that's what really differentiates one firm from another, what they can offer on the back end, right? Because our job is to be front of house selling while they're supporting, for the most part. So I think a lot of the over-promising and under-delivering tends to happen, one, on the marketing side, two, technology, because every firm, and we were not going to name names today, but a lot of firms always are leading with, we are embracing AI. We have these robust back-end systems to help you on the go with your clients. Yeah. And when it comes down to it, do some do a little bit better than others? Yes. But for example, Brown Harris runs off of Real Plus, right? There are other firms in the city that also run off of Real Plus. It's a very robust platform. We all have the same skeleton, and then it's basically what you build around it that matters. What I did find, though, and part of the reason why I stay at Brown Harris Stevens, is a lot of firms don't have as much flexibility in what they can provide to you. They might deliver a great product, but whether or not that product will work for your brand, or they can adapt it to work with exactly what you're trying to put out there, that's the big wild card in deciding whether or not the brokerage is a good fit and you should join them, basically.
Devin, again, getting back to what we touched on a little earlier, I sometimes feel that brokerages aren't investing in agent success. They really kind of, and there are many examples out there, they're really kind of chasing headcount, building up the firm, numbers. We're the largest firm in New York, we're the largest firm in the world. And I usually sit back when I hear that kind of stuff and say, who cares? Mm-hmm. So what? Who cares is my hashtag on social media. Because I don't really believe that makes a difference to me as an individual or to you as an individual. Does that work? Or does it work for a short period of time and then the agent who was just recently recruited gets turned off and says, because I've seen a lot of this lately, and they go right back to where they started?
Great question. Well, first off, there are agencies that purely focus on headcount, and it's that model could work if you're transaction based or
right.
A desk fee, and there are firms that do that, and basically the model is as many agents as they could hire, the more revenue they're producing. But generally speaking, I think headcount is ego. I also think it's problematic for agencies because it could bottleneck them, right? So there's only so much business that could go around. Also from a support standpoint, right? They are kind of really dwindling if there's too many agents. And I think a better metric that agents should be evaluating when looking at an agency versus headcount is really retention rate. Our industry is so our industry is so fluid. In some cases, a large percentage of agencies are revolving doors, right? So a good question might be asking, what percentage of the top producers, how long have they stayed at this firm, and what are the reasons why, right?
So I think actually, just to jump in, one of the things that Living New York does really well is if you look under the hood, they have a very tight-knit group of top producing agents that have been there forever. Mm-hmm. And I only know this because Devin's actually my former boss. So
we were talking before air, and he alluded to the fact that they knew each other in the past, but wouldn't tell me until we're on
Devin actually gave me my start in the business 10 years ago.
Mazel tov. Congratulations.
Yeah, it took me from the world of Wall Street and threw me right to the wolves.
And then gave him to us.
I actually, so I ran his residential sales and leasing team.
How did I not know that?
This is why I thought it was very strategic casting today.
Actually,
and not only that, but I used to recruit for them too. I interviewed all the new agents.
Yeah. We thought this was planned.
I thought it was planned.
He told me that when he saw you, and I'm like, no, trust me, I can't think that far out. It was not. I've wanted you for a while. I always want him on the show, and that Conchetta's here to talk about the real ins and outs of recruiting. What a great group of three. He tells me, well, I have something to tell you, and you just did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go right back to you, Matt, because you mentioned a little before about taking meetings. I have too through the years, and Conchetta and I talked about this a little before, but it's always, not right for me or not good for me because I'm really, really super happy here at Brown Harris Stevens, and I mean, I really am. If commission splits aren't the full story, what are agents where are agents really quietly losing money? Is it fees, caps, internal cost? What is it? I mean, we'd like to think that they leave because they want a bigger split, right? It's not always about that.
Yeah, it's not about the split. Mm-hmm. It's about the other pieces that sort of fit into the puzzle. And I mean that in the way of, yes, there are desk fees for some firms. It all depends on their operating model.
Right.
But, back in the day, there was another firm, we can't name names, but they were offering Wall Street style compensation packages with production bonuses, marketing budgets, admin budgets, stock options, you name it. For a lot of agents that either were new to the business or didn't quite understand how the packages work, that was extremely attractive and a very smart way to recruit people. Whether or not long-term that was the best way to pull people in and then retain them remains to be seen, but that was really smart. So, if a firm is offering ways for you to save money on those other pieces that come out of your paycheck, like a marketing budget, for example, but obviously there are rules and stipulations for all of it. I think that's where agents stand to gain the most above and beyond, the basic split. But I think it's not always very black and white. And I think a lot of agents don't really realize depending on where they are in their careers, how much leverage you have going into the meeting. You should always ask for everything,
Right.
and then see what they're willing to give you. But at the end of the day, for me, I like the fact that I am a brand that is, we use the term here, powered by a brand. Whereas a lot of other brokerages, you are an agent that is underneath a brand. And you have to decide what works better for you. It's not a one-size-fits-all equation.
Yeah. Well said. I totally agree with that. Yeah. Conchetta, so when you're talking to agents who are potentially looking, or you're talking to company heads, right, about what they're looking for, how transparent, though, are brokerages really about profitability, financial stability, long-term, viability, especially when the markets are slow? Do they communicate enough to you that you can communicate to that agent who is looking? Because my feeling is if an agent doesn't ask a whole bunch of questions about a company that may have an opening, they might be selling themselves short.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, so many of these firms are publicly traded or,
Correct.
Have a parent company. So a lot of this information is already out there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to go find it, right? And I think with, privately held companies, obviously, they don't have to necessarily reveal their numbers, but people know, who's doing what. And,
Right.
The information is really out there. It's interesting. I was actually talking with someone recently, and she was talking about her agents came to understand that their parent company was, in a bit of financial trouble, and was shocking news to them. And, they got worried. They said, are we okay? And the reality is the information's out there, but you kind of have to go and dig for it. Are companies going to be transparent about it? I would ask a lot of questions. If I were being recruited, that would be something that would be important to me. And, if you don't ask, they might not share it willingly. So that is something
I actually
that's very
agree with this
important.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah, no, I do too.
You can't go off of, how much, I know Brown Harris Stevens always sort of promotes the fact that we have the highest sales volume per agent for a company similar in size to us.
Yeah.
But for me, going into, when you're assessing a new brokerage, it's not about the production rate of the agents, because that is completely irrelevant to what you are going to do with your business. The financial stability of the company itself is really important. And I agree, it's like one of the things that almost no one asks about. They just assume that you're in business. But we have headlines all the time about companies running in the red because this is, it's very hard to strike that balance with a business model that works not only for the agents to keep them retained, but for the company to keep it afloat.
Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, rather than necessarily asking for the P&L of a company, I think a good way of having those questions answered is asking an agency, how are they reinvesting in the business, right? Are they investing in, human capital that could help support and build your business, right?
Human capital.
Yeah, like marketing departments, right? Administrative support.
No, well said.
Tech stack. And you could get a sense, is this business struggling or not? And, how will they support my growth and the growth of the agency and the brand?
All right, we've got to take a quick break. We're coming right back after these messages. This is Talking New York Real Estate here on the More Network. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country, and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
All right, everybody, we are back, and we're going to talk to this group at the moment. I want to get into culture a little bit, okay? Because as Matt knows, I know we work here at Brown Harris Stevens, and I've said, and I'm sure he agrees, that if not for the culture here, I probably would have been long gone. The culture here is amazing. It's sensational, from our leader best all the way down the chain of our leaders and directors. Amazing. And all the agents, in addition to that, because, this can be a cutthroat business. We've all seen it. We've all heard the horror stories. Culture is important. And I would assume that when our leaders here at Brown Harris recruit, they talk a lot about culture because I know it means a lot to agents. How often do you run up against agents telling you that they want to leave because they don't get their culture at all, or they want to go to a place that has a better culture, et cetera, et cetera? And when you talk to companies like BHS that has a good culture by reputation, how does that help you in your recruiting efforts? You just brought a very big star here in our Brooklyn office, rather. So how do you do that? And what does culture mean to you and those out there who may be searching for something a little better?
Yeah, great question, Vince. Culture is super important in our industry, and I think it comes down to, first off, are the agents raving fans? Like, do they love the company? Do they talk about the company with excitement and passion and share about it with other people? If you have an agent that's excited and that is talking about how much they love it, that shows you that the company has good culture. The other thing is also, again, energy. Like, what's going on in the office? I know a lot of offices, across the city, you go in and might be empty. People might not be going in.
Yeah.
But I do think that people that love where they work tend to, hang out with each other, go out together, outside of work. And
certainly happens here, at least in my world.
and the other thing that's so important, and this is probably one of the crucial aspects of culture, is really the leadership. Who is running the show, and how do they lead, and do people want to follow them? So I think those three aspects of a company are very important. And ultimately, it does make a big difference when someone is deciding whether to join a company or not.
Right here, it's Bess Friedman, highly decorated in our industry, in this country. She is beyond amazing. I can go on and on and on, but for the sake of time. And you're right, it's all about that. Devin, talk to us a little bit about your culture. How do you define the culture in your company, and how important is it for you to make sure that you maintain that culture so when you are out there recruiting and you do talk to other agents to come on board or to join the firm, that they're going to be comfortable with who you are?
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. I'm an open book when it comes to recruiting. I'll always encourage agents who are interviewing with us to reach out to producers of our agency or top producers and ask them what their experience is. I also think one way, outside of, by the way, leadership, is you're spot on with that, is also promoting agent collaboration. And so that's something we really focus on. And so we'll collaborate the strengths of top producers. That might be, for example, an agent who focuses on a specific submarket with an agent who might be really experienced in new development. And, that new development agent may not know this particular submarket, so we pair them together. And when you get...
That's an important point, because new development agents are pretty much focused on or zero in on their
four
product.
walls, of their building.
Exactly.
And so we always look at ways where not only could they collaborate, but also grow together. And when you create an environment where you're one team, I think that creates a healthy work environment and a productive one, versus creating an environment where it's ultra competitive and people are fighting over leads in business.
Matt, wax poetic about culture, not only here at Brown Harris Stevens, and I think you would agree with what I said before, but to you, how important is culture, and what does it really mean as a top producer here, as a popular agent here? How does that really affect your day-to-day business?
So I think before we even get into that, there is a fine line in this industry between culture and cult-ish, if that makes sense. So
yes.
So there's...
I wouldn't put it that way, but you're so right.
I think there are certain brokerages that have a very well-rounded, comprehensive culture, and it makes sense. And the brand identity filters top to bottom. But then I think there are other brokerages, which are cult-ish, where everyone is sort of fawning over certain facets of the business or people in positions of power, and there's no real substance behind it. So, part of the reason why I stay at Brown Harris Stevens, despite all the other opportunities out there, is leadership, support staff, and the fact that we have this prestigious 150 plus year old brand that obviously leads, but also lets us sort of excel in our own brand with it powering us from behind. So I think culture is incredibly important, but it's really easy to get lost in a firm that is what I would call cult-ish, where there's really nothing behind the sexy marketing and the image and the graphics and the social media outreach and the exposure and the reach. And you typically can tell the difference between culture and cult-ish, because cult-ish, they will all repeat the same thing verbatim. And I mean the agents. So when they're talking about how great their company is, it's almost as if they're programmed to sort of spit back this, you know what I'm talking about, spit back the same lines. Whether they realize it or not, they all say, and they don't know each other, they all say the same thing. But then if you ask like the why, it's just like, well, because we have great marketing. I'm like, okay, but what? What about it? Why? Or like, leadership is just so inspirational. I'm like, what have they done to inspire you? They can't answer the question. So that's, and 8 years ago, I could not tell the difference between the two. Now, 10 years into the business, 10 years plus, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, culture is everything, not to beat a dead horse, but culture is everything, feeling comfortable with, even if you're working in corporate America, that I did for 20 years before real estate, you have to feel like you fit in, that you're in the right place for you, who you are, etc. Conchetta, so do you get feedback ever on from agents where they've been placed somewhere, or they call you if you had nothing to do with their placement and say, you know what, I just can't deal with the culture here, for whatever they explain to you, help me? Do you find that a lot of people are agitated with their company's culture, or don't get their company's culture, or they just want to move?
I think things change.
Because again, culture
right?
is everything, I think.
I think, obviously things change. And what I've been hearing a lot lately is fear. I've heard from a lot of agents, a lot of fear around change and what's happening, and, how certain changes internally might affect their business. Expansion has come up quite a bit. And so, before someone leaves a company, it takes a lot, because people don't like to move. It's very disruptive in your business to leave your company and go to another company.
It's expensive.
It's very expensive.
And it's expensive.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
But, if I could say what I've been hearing a lot lately is, fear of this change and expansion and how it's going to impact their business, and, also disgruntlement, so to speak, over new things that are being implemented, such as transaction fees. This is something that's come up.
I heard about that this morning. I didn't know anything about it.
And agents are saying, a lot. We're going to get a lot of pushback from our sellers, from our buyers. So these are things I've been hearing lately.
Talk to us a little bit about, markets like this, and then I'm going to ask these gentlemen to chime in as well. Weird market, as I said at the top of the show, kind of slow. High end is doing deals, more cash deals than not. We've struggled for almost 2.5 years now with interest rates, which we're kind of getting to level off. Inventory right now is our biggest problem, lack of inventory. So there's not a lot to sell, so there's not a lot for buyers to actually go out there and look for. How does all of that weird market versus hot market affect recruiting? Are more agents looking to change, thinking that, well, maybe it's just my company, or maybe I just need a change, or just like in your personal life, I need to do things differently, maybe I'll feel better? Does that apply at all or not?
In a way, yes. I mean, I've had a lot of agents reach out to me saying they want to leave the business. They want to get into the developer side. Everyone's wants to go, work in-house. So that's what I've seen lately.
I actually love that. I was a new development salesperson for 18 years. I love it.
Well, that's a little safer because you get benefits and
safer.
A base salary.
Correct. And I still get to do my resale. So, it's the best of all worlds, but I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and obviously it's a very coveted position to go work, in-house for a developer. But the reality is the changes in the market have, really impacted agents to look at their business and reassess, do I really want to be doing this?
Devin, from a cultural perspective, based on what we just talked about, how things change in weird markets, slow markets, whatever, agents start feeling, well, maybe this is not for me, maybe I need to move on, whatever. Do you sense that with any of your agents, top agents or not, at your company? Or does it seem like, okay, we're just going to ride this out until we as long as we can, and then maybe things will change and get better? What are you sensing from your population?
So it's a little bit of a plug for my company right now. We actually have kind of the opposite experience. We couldn't be busier on the recruitment side, and that's because
that's incredible.
Yeah, well, we lead with stability, right? Our agency, how we're really different is we're highly specialized in the sense that we provide inventory and relationships. So a high percentage of the revenue that's generated from living is actually from agency-led business. So agents like coming to us, not everyone obviously, but a lot of agents like coming to us because we provide opportunities. So we may not lead with the big production in the recruitment meetings, but we're leading with actual business. And so, I always tell agents that come in that are hyper-focused on their commission splits, instead of asking that question, the better question is, what are you getting in return for the business that you're bringing? And so what we provide is actual concrete business and introductions to our network and our relationships. And so for us in quieter markets, we've actually seen more agents come to us because the visibility of the business that we provide. So.
Well said. Matt, is collaboration, and again, some of the recruiting situations that you've been in, I've been in, whatever, is collaboration generally encouraged, or are top agents actually competing against each other for internal leads, visibility, notoriety, look at me, don't forget me, whatever? How do you think that collaboration works or doesn't?
I mean, I think it obviously depends if you're already working on a team or if you're a solo agent, because it's a very different experience.
Well, I wanted to talk about teams, but go ahead.
But for me as a solo agent, I encourage collaboration. I work 2 different markets, so I need to be. Friday, for example, I was in the Hamptons working in the morning, and I was in Manhattan by 3:00 showing in the afternoon. So
you just put a new listing out in the Hamptons this week, didn't you?
It's going live in 2 days, actually.
There you go.
But I encourage collaboration, and I welcome it, because not only does it allow me to do more, but the increase in exposure I view as a benefit, because I'm only one person, right? If you're on a team, you can collaborate within the team,
right?
But I also think that the more competitive dog-eat-dog team dynamics or firm dynamics that don't encourage collaboration, which I experience a little more frequently on the East End than I do in the city. I think the Manhattan agents play nice. Once you get into the outer boroughs, it depends on where you are. Some areas are way more territorial than others. But I think overall what New York City does better than most markets is collaboration between the agents, because let's face it, getting a co-op sale across the finish line is not as easy as selling a house, right? More could go wrong and there could be more surprises on the house sale, but just the intricacies and complexities of a co-op transaction in Manhattan, it puts everything else to shame. You need all the help you can get.
Absolutely.
I also think what you see sometimes on TV is sensationalized. I think especially the top producing agents, they're running a business within the business. They don't have time for the drama. The collaboration is mutually beneficial for these agents that are working together. And if you're focused on the business, all the emotions should be put aside.
Do you encourage teams in your company, or you let people kind of figure that out or sort that out themselves?
If it makes sense. I've found that some agents like the concept of a team, but if you can't provide the support in the business for that, it's not going to work.
Not.
I believe that the team mentality should work either if a group of individuals have, the same objective and they're aligned going in, or there's actual business to be worked on, and that would support the team.
I talk a lot about this when I'm teaching, but also on this show. Back when I started in this business 24 years ago, teams didn't exist, really.
Yeah.
Right.
You had maybe one in my entire office. You had a lot of partnership. Well, not even a couple of partnerships, 2 people working together. But today, teams seem to be the way to go. I agree with everything you just said. when they make sense. Because what I've heard from new people joining teams oftentimes is no one takes the time to help me, to mentor me, to train me.
That's the whole point of a team.
You
would think,
that is the whole point of team. So I was going to ask Conchetta, so when you're talking to team leaders who are out there recruiting or asking you to help them find agents to join their team, what's that dynamic? Are they willing to mentor, to train, to grab somebody, as I say, by the arm and run with them for as long as it takes? Or
I mean, the reality is the top agents, they're really not, there to mentor. They're there to
But that's my point,
to do
yes.
business, right? And so, if someone's joining a team, typically what they're looking for is mentorship.
100%.
And I think it's very important to define what role that person will have. For example, if they're hiring an assistant, someone that they're paying a salary to that, is there to do a lot of the back end stuff, right? Their listing management and, all of the operations and things like that. If that person is really there for ops, are they going to have the time to go show or to build their own book of business? So I really encourage everyone, have it defined, what is it that you need this person to do? Top team leaders, when they've asked me to help them find someone that is an agent, generally speaking, they want someone that has some business to bring to the table. And I find people are looking to join teams because they want to pick up leads, and it doesn't always work that way.
You know that because you see a lot of the team photos every year. They drastically change the faces that are in the photos.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's hilarious that you bring that up because that's one thing I notice all the time. Like, what happened to so-and-so?
Who's that person?
Oh, who's that person? Wow. Okay. Again, not naming names. But, Conchetta, let me ask you this question because I have, and my team behind the camera here, they're so gracious sometimes to allow my students to sit back there and watch this show being produced. I have a lot of students who are brand new to the business, want to join either teams or get involved in companies, small, medium, large, and they find it hard. What is your advice to brand new, right out of real estate school, to get started as a real estate agent?
I mean, I would say, you can go about it a few different ways. Obviously, the company that you join should have some sort of guideline, right?
Should.
Build your book of business, reach out to your sphere, market yourself. I mean, there's, certain things that you do, income producing activities, I like to call it, to just really start building your business, right? Letting people know I'm doing this. One way I think if you're in an office that has perhaps someone who's been in the business a while, maybe they're a solo agent, and they don't necessarily want to run around or do have some residual business to give, offer yourself, pair up with that person. Hey, can I take your rental clients out? Or, can I work your, studio listing? Offer yourself as a shower on the weekend. I mean, there's lots of different ways that you can build that business as a new agent.
That's so correct. I mean, when I first started here 24 years ago in the Upper West Side office, as we talked about offline, all right, I had 20 plus years corporate experience, but I knew nothing about real estate. Only that I bought and sold a few of my own apartments, liked the process, thought it was a little bizarre in New York City, coming from the suburbs. And so I became a real estate agent, and I was fortunate. And Diva Lane, and everybody knows Diva Lane because I coined that phrase many years ago. Dorothy was on Diva Lane. But they were all so welcoming and so helpful to me as a brand new agent. Literally took me by the hand and did exactly what you just said. Run an open house for me. Come on, buy your showings with me. Come and talk. Come and listen rather when I'm talking to an exclusive presentation to a seller. And I got to do all of that. And I had people skill because I was selling tech for many years at IBM, but in real estate, it's a whole different people business, but they were gracious and generous enough with me to do that. They are all still my friends, all of them, because, 24 years later, they taught me everything I know. And so when I talk to these younger, brand new, out of school students, I'm like, you got to get yourself into a situation like that if you can. But, hiring companies are not so fast to do that when they're brand new, especially in slow markets. Everybody wants, a top producer.
Yeah, and the reality is this business is not for everyone.
No, it's not.
People think that they're going to become a real estate agent and hit it big, and they see the shows. And when I interview people and they talk to me about the shows, it's not reality.
Oh God,
it's
don't
very,
get me started.
You have to really work hard, and you have to have a certain personality.
Yeah.
You have to not be afraid of being rejected, and there's a lot of letdown in the beginning, of course. I mean, you do have wins, but it takes time to build a business. It really does. So, I think sometimes people come into the business and discover it's not quite for them, and they leave.
Okay, we've got to take another quick break. One more block coming up. We're going to talk about technology and how that can persuade agents to join firms, leave firms, etc. Right after these messages. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Dylan Pachulik, CEO of XL Real Property Management, New York's most trusted name in luxury property management since 2012. We specialize in managing individual apartments, townhouses, and rental buildings held by absentee owners. We maintain our properties with the highest standards of quality and service so that owners can choose a hassle-free approach to real estate investing. Rented or owner-occupied, we handle it all. For more information, contact us at xl-rpm.com.
We are back, and I want to end the show talking a little bit about technology, how that plays into recruiting, how that plays into either a top producer, a regular producer, someone brand new. What does technology really mean? Now, listen, I say this all the time. I'm old enough in this business to remember 24 years ago when I started, there wasn't any website. I worked for, a number one real estate firm, and we did not have a website. No one did. And then we were the first firm to come out with it. And then Corcoran came and Elliman came right after us. But can you imagine doing this job without a real estate web page for your company? There was New York Times web. There was a whole bunch of things, but not really focused on your company. As we've gone through, these devices, as we all go to bed with and wake up in the morning, we can't lose these things. Barely weren't existing in our industry. I remember running to the payphone on the corner to make a phone call about a listing showing. It was unbelievable. How did we do that? Today, technology is, I don't want to say everything, but it's everything. Where our jobs are concerned, I don't think I could be a real estate agent in 2026 without technology. If I'm away, if I'm remote, I can do everything on my iPad, my work application, on my iPhone. I don't need a computer. It's unbelievable. Devin, how important in your firm is technology? How have you grown on the tech side from 18 years ago when you started to where you are today? And obviously, there's more to do.
Yeah, tech is extremely important, but don't get it confused. It's really a tool and a resource. It's not the business, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of agencies try to position themselves having proprietary technology.
Correct.
When I think there's incredible third-party vendors that offer basically the same services and software.
Absolutely.
And so I think to be less hyper-focused on that, more focused on how do you use those tools to grow your business, right? The tech could look amazing, could be flashy and really presentable, but if you're not able to utilize it in a way where it helps generate revenue, it's meaningless. And so, but also, real estate is so fast-pacing, prop tech is so fast-pacing, AI is so fast-pacing that the landscape could change, and it will likely change, and we all have to adapt to that. But present day, I think it's a pretty level playing field, really amongst most agencies. So long as they're investing in tech, you could be competitive on the tech front.
I was going to say the exact same thing. It's most of the top brokerages all offer generally the same, we'll call it degree of technological resources.
Right.
The differentiating factor is how firms are assembling, whether it's through third-party resources that are signed on with the brokerage or a back-end system that allows integration with other facets and other technological resources. It's how those pieces fit together. And I think a lot of agents, especially newer ones coming into the business, are sometimes blinded by these overpromised prop tech, AI-driven, you're going to be so busy with leads, you're not even going to know what to do with yourself. But for me, for example, technology allows me to manage more relationships effectively and efficiently. It's not a substitute for a lack of business. It's a tool to help maintain the business and allow you to keep going faster with more on your plate without missing a beat.
I have to tell you something. This goes back to my corporate days of 35 years ago, whatever. When technology doesn't work, though, regardless of how good it is, sophisticated, but when technology doesn't work for me, Vince Rocco, I am out of my mind. When there's a little bug somewhere and something's not working, I'm out of my mind.
We lost Verizon service for an entire day.
Don't even
last
talk
month.
about that.
I was in the dark ages for 8 hours. I had no idea how I was going to get through my day.
I was outside on the street doing my thing, and I'm like, what?
I was running into Starbucks every couple of
to
blocks to connect to Wi-Fi
so
I could get my emails and then keep going. I was basically running from Starbucks to Starbucks wherever I knew there was Wi-Fi.
Trying to close a deal.
No, that was crazy.
And I had to wait until almost 8 o'clock at night to get back to the brokerage. He's like, oh my God. I'm like, well, you were home all day. I wasn't. You were on Wi-Fi. I'm out on the street. Anyway, she kind of figured it out, but and the deal is about to close, but hilarious. But when it doesn't work, like that example,
so true.
I'm out of my shoes. I can't, because we are so, geared to things helping us. It's a tool. It's not our industry, but it helps us work. In your world, Conchetta, so when you're recruiting, how important is technology to agents that you might be placing anywhere else? So they put high importance on tech the firm has, or is it just whatever, other things?
I think it's important. But it's part of the puzzle, right? It's, what's the leadership like? What is the company like? What resources do they have? What will they do for me type thing, right? Yes, technology is definitely important, but it's not it's not the whole picture. It's part of the picture.
It shouldn't be, as Devin said before very well. It shouldn't be the whole picture. It's an assist. It's a tool. It helps us get from point A to point B sometimes. Except that Verizon episode, but that's a one-off, hopefully.
Yeah, but to Matt's point, I do think that most of the companies out there are really offering a competitive package as far as their tech is concerned.
Yeah. I agree with that. Devin, when deals get complicated, legal issues, compliance problems, negotiations, do agents get real leadership support? Or are they kind of out there on their own? And again, in the recruiting aspect of things, we want to feel like here that we can go to our leadership for anything, and they're like, okay, come on, Vince, let's go and do it. Is that the norm out there, or is it not?
In New York City, biasedly, I would say for the most part, there is true support. I see where things
from leadership.
From leadership, I do see and heard stories in some instances where we've actually recruited agents as a result of more of legal issues when things kind of get hairy there, and they're not getting support and they have to seek outside counsel and they're kind of on an island by themselves. But generally speaking, negotiations, if a deal is getting tricky, for the most part, I've seen the support there. And listen, there's a mutual interest, right? The leadership and the agency want these deals to work and they want the agents to be happy.
Right. Matt, if a brokerage loses multiple top producers at a particular, in a short period of time rather, is that just usual market movement, or is that, an internal problem at the company they're working for, or what the heck is happening? I mean, we've all heard those stories.
We've seen quite a bit of movement in the last 12 months.
Right.
So I really break this down into sort of two categories because, doing this for 10 plus years, you generally see the same faces over and over. And I came from a former industry where if you were in one spot for more than 18 to 24 months, that was a very long time. So there was a lot of jumping around. I think there is a subset of agent that is constantly looking for the next best thing. And you will see them every 8 to 14 months going from one team to the next, the next, the next. They never actually end up establishing themselves long enough to do any business.
Right.
Then you have the more high profile departures, which I think if they've been it's one thing if the broker is moving to a new brokerage. That if there's a lot of that pattern, that is a sign of something internal that's happening at the company. It's not, oh, their marketing's not great, or, oh, I think they're losing money. There's something brewing internally, whether it's issues with upper management, legal problems. We've had our fair share of headlines. I'm sure everyone here reads The Real Deal.
Of course.
But then if you have a broker that's what we'll call coming home, where they did a hiatus for whether it was 2 years up to 10 plus years at another brokerage, and then they end up coming back to the one that they were at originally, that's a totally different story, because that could be they were wooed back by a shift in upper management, or they suddenly realized, I really miss what this firm had to offer. I gave it a fair shake at the new brokerage. It's just not working out. It could be a variety of reasons, but I do agree if there are a cluster of high profile departures all at the same time, it is generally a problem much deeper than, oh, their technology is not so great. It's really culture or cultish.
Cultish. Yeah, no, well said. I agree with that. So, Conchetta, really, at the end of the day, or whether they're top producers or not, are they just outgrowing the traditional big firm and wanting to just do something on their own or change up the model altogether? Even when I talk to people sometimes, and they don't even know what they want to change it to, but they're just like, oh, I'm just so over this, this culture or this bigness or this big firm, whatever. Maybe I need to do something else. Maybe it's a small firm. Maybe I want to go out on my own.
I've seen that. I've seen, not a lot, but I have seen agents go out on their own and, start their own brand. They, maybe are entrepreneurial by spirit and want a little bit more freedom. They want to do their own branding. They, have their own strong book of business and feel that they don't necessarily need their brand, their former company behind them. I have seen some of that, but for the most part, I think that agents really like to be at a company that has strong branding, has strong resources, has legal and compliance and all of the departments that they need to really to help them and power their business. So I think for the most part, agents like to stay at the more traditional firms. Of course, you have the other model where agents can go and go to a company that, they'll pay you a higher split, like a 90 or 100% split. But, I do believe that for the most part, agents prefer to be at companies, like Brown Harris Stevens, where they have
the traditional model for sure is weaning out. You see that because of the mass consolidation in the industry. Even companies that have, sister companies, they're merging internally. And a large driving factor of that is that what we were talking about before, the tech, the marketing, it's becoming so streamlined that agents could go out on their own easily, or they could go to a high percent, split firm. So I think the industry is going in a direction of specialization. And that's what we focus on. Again, a plug here. We have multiple verticals. We have a large property management platform. We have a lot of developer landlord rep relationships and inventory. And so, although we may not have the head count or the headlines or the banners that some of these other agencies have, that's kind of our focus and our niche. And I think agencies have to have their own voice.
And tell us, the audience, the name of your company and where you're located.
Living New York. We're based in Manhattan, but we have offices uptown. We have a presence in Brooklyn, Queens, basically all the boroughs. So, I think in general, the industry is going to be more niche and specialized. And I think the agencies have to figure out a way that they're different.
It's so funny you said that, because as I mentioned Diva Lane before, and when I first started, with a whole bunch of awesome, unbelievable agents, and they still are, one of them pulled me aside one day and said, and I may have told the story in the show, so forgive me, but Vince, you're going to be good, we think, but you've got to figure out what your niche is in this gigantic industry of ours. Is it neighborhood? Is it type of apartment, condo versus co-op? Is it townhouse? Is it whatever? And I went home that night and thought, how do I even come up with an answer on that? And then I realized, I said, you know what? I had just helped my mom buy a new condo development up in Westchester after we sold our family house. She bought one. And I said, I want to do brand new development as my niche. Dorothy Somack came to me one day and said she was on site at an Upper West Side building and said,
The Sheffield?
no, the Hudson.
Okay.
I'm too busy. My reseller's going crazy. I can't do this. I've already spoken to our leader over here, plus the developer, and I mentioned your name without even talking to you, Vince. I'm so sorry, but I think you'd be great at this, blah, blah, on and on and on. End of the story. 15 years later, I remained a new development thanks to Dorothy, and I love her for it and many other things, but that was my chosen niche, and she somehow read that and knew that, and she helped me get it. That Diva Lane agent was like, wow, you really pulled that off, didn't you? It was just my suggestion. I'm like, well, what are you going to do about that? Last question. What's a question that every agent should ask leadership that most are uncomfortable to bring up in an interview kind of setup when they're looking to change, join the firm, whatever? What is that tough question that they really are uncomfortable with?
I have a couple. I don't know if this one's necessarily a tough question, but if I were an agent going to a new company, I would ask them, will you sit down with me once a year and, go over my business and show me where I can grow or, just help strategize with me. Like, that's something I definitely would want to do with my, manager. And then the other question I would ask, which is definitely an uncomfortable one, is, what will you do if my business goes sideways? If I have, a dip
Great question.
Because again, during the courtship, everything is great, right? You want this person to come on and, and it's lovely, but you know how this business is. Sometimes, it's hot, and sometimes you do have, whether it's a professional dip or whether, you go through something on a personal level, is your company going to be there for you, and how will they be there for you? That's definitely an uncomfortable question, but it's something I would ask.
Oh, I think it's very important. Devin, as a founder and leader and owner of your company, what question would you think people would be most uncomfortable to ask you in an interview? I mean, what Chetta said was perfect, but is there anything else?
Yeah, I'd be more blunt. I'd ask a question of like, where's my X amount of dollars in production going to be coming from if I join your firm, right?
Okay.
You want to quantify your growth and qualify the growth. How am I actually going to get to that number? And I think that's an important question, right? Otherwise, it's just talk, right? And I think a lot of agencies lead with, like, we're originally starting this with talk versus, actual business or ways that they could grow their business. And that's one of the main driving factors. Agencies are looking for change because they want to grow. And where they were, they're stagnant or...
Exactly. Matt, I know you have a burning question that you would want to ask.
I mean, I don't think as someone in sales you should ever feel comfortable asking any sort of question, just because if you don't ask, the answer is always no, right? But
100%.
To your point from earlier, I think it makes sense to sort of put the interviewer on the spot, or whoever's courting you at the time, because it's usually upper management, and ask them to actually walk you through an example of them, whether it was through mentorship, business development, strategizing. How did you take one agent, walk me through a full year from one level to the next, and let them discuss all the steps that they took, because either they're going to have to think really fast and be a really good liar, or they're going to have real-time examples. And usually you can tell, right? So for them to be able to sort of walk through a 12-month process of growth and development with one specific agent and what exactly was done to bring them from A to B, I mean, that really would show that they want to know what they're doing. And also, they are, the one thing that I think is the most important is accessibility of upper management and leadership, and then the support that results from that.
Okay, sadly, we are out of time, but we'll be back in a minute with a personal word from our sponsor, Roadway Moving and Storage, and my final thoughts right after these messages.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, we are back. I'm sitting here with Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage, our sponsor here on the More Network for Talking New York Real Estate. Stephen, I want to, first of all, welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for coming. We love Roadway Moving and Storage. But I want to talk a little bit about, and you have stats for me today, of the top 4 or 5 neighborhoods in all of New York City where there's been a lot more activity the last month or two than in other areas. So if you want to give me a couple of them and we'll run them down, my opinion on why people are moving into these neighborhoods. They're all hot neighborhoods from what we talked about before.
Well, first, we'd like to begin by thanking you for the opportunity. So let's start with Upper East Side. Mm-hmm. What we're seeing on the Upper East Side is a lot of movement Upper East Side to Upper East Side. And the data is showing that the reason for the Upper East Side to Upper East Side moving is because of the schools, easy access to subways, and of course, to medical offices.
That's absolutely correct. And one of the things, I lived on the Upper East Side for years before I moved to the West Side. And one of the reasons I left the Upper East Side was because transportation was terrible. There was one subway line and it was overpacked, the 4, 5, and 6. It was just not a pleasant experience. Every morning I was working in corporate America, all the way down to Wall Street, all the way back, et cetera. But one of the things that has brought people back, as you just mentioned, is the Second Avenue subway and the fact that now there are multiple train systems and stops on the Upper East Side. But one of the things that people have always wanted to migrate there for is for the schools, as you said before. You know, the private schools, the public schools on the Upper East Side are some of the best in all of New York City. And it happens to be a great place to be as it's located on the island of Manhattan. So I understand that, and I appreciate the fact that people want to stay. And what I find interesting in a lot of neighborhoods that we'll talk about is they're staying within neighborhoods and moving within neighborhoods. Whereas before, people would move from West Side to East Side, from downtown to uptown. It was kind of cuckoo. But I've also found through the years that people who are on the Upper East Side are, this is my home, and I want to be here. And I'm not going, and now I don't have to.
True. And so, FIDI, what the data is showing in FIDI is that there's a lot of people moving from either New Jersey or California. And we believe that the reason that they're moving into FIDI is largely due to larger units, waterfront views, and easy access to subways.
I totally agree with that. And one of the things that when I talk to people who want to be in that neighborhood, at first I was like, because I worked in FIDI on Wall Street from a corporate perspective, and I thought it was boring as you can imagine. Who would want to live here? That quickly changed, and it's changed a long time ago. People love the proximity to trains. They like to be able to get on a train and go literally anywhere, including Brooklyn or Queens, uptown, midtown. It doesn't matter where you work anymore. The train system down there is amazing. And quite frankly, as you indicated, you know, who doesn't want to be on the waterfront, right? Who doesn't want to look at water? I look at water on the Upper West Side, but I consider myself lucky from my apartment, but not everybody has that. And it's also a cool place to be. For a while, it was very young. Young people were moving in to that neighborhood. Now it's kind of becoming family. And once a neighborhood becomes family, in my opinion, as a 24-year real estate agent, that's when you know you have an established neighborhood.
As we analyze the data in Brooklyn and Dumbo, what we're seeing there is a migration from Williamsburg, primarily, into and the Greenport area. And that's largely due to new development, larger apartments, also access to good schools, and then, of course, in certain areas, views to the city.
You know, the Brooklyn regeneration, as I call it, and have called it now for many years, is kind of interesting. And, you know, at first, people moving to Williamsburg were young, kids just starting out in New York City, couldn't afford Manhattan where they all wanted to be. They went to Williamsburg. And Williamsburg became quite the hot place for many people to live. But as you indicated, as new development all around that neighborhood, in Dumbo, in Brooklyn Heights, for example. As new development and brand new buildings have emerged, people are now growing up, as I indicated before, meeting people, starting families. So they're leaving for larger spaces, but staying within the borough because, as I've, recognized over the past 15 years or so, Brooklyn is the place to be. I'm old enough to remember when I grew up with people who lived in Brooklyn, they couldn't wait to run out of Brooklyn and into Manhattan. Now it's the reverse, and it has stayed that way. And I don't believe it's going to change.
Lastly, Long Island City. Long Island City is hot. And the reason why people are moving into Long Island City, one, we spoke about this, is new development. Mm-hmm. There's new development going up everywhere. Mm-hmm. So it's attractive for small and large families, but also people appreciate the amenities and, of course, the proximity to public transportation and, of course, the views out of New York City.
You can't take away how close it is to Manhattan. A lot of people think, oh, that's Queens, oh, that's whatever. It is a fast ride to Midtown, fast ride anywhere in Manhattan. And for all the reasons you said, we have a situation where there's a lot of new development, a lot of brand new rental developments and condo developments, and younger people who are just trying to find their way here in New York City are moving there because it is still a little cheaper than Brooklyn and Manhattan, and it's the place to be. It really is becoming the place to be from a transportation perspective. And from a housing perspective, it's a very cool location in all of New York City.
Thank you, Vince.
And that's it for today. We'll be right back after these messages, so don't go anywhere. Okay, everybody, we are back. At the end of the day, the right brokerage isn't just the one with the loudest recruiting message. It is the one that qualifies or quietly helps agents build sustainable, resilient businesses. Top brokers today are evaluating leadership, infrastructure, legal protection, culture, and whether the firm can support them, not just in a hot market, but through inevitable shifts and challenges. The real question isn't, where can I hang my license? It's where can I grow, evolve, and protect my business long term? As the industry continues to change, the most successful professionals will be the ones who choose alignment over type or hype and strategy over short-term incentives. And that's it for this episode of Talking New York Real Estate. As we move through the year this year, we should always remember it's not about grand promises or overnight change. It's about intention, choosing clarity over noise, growth over comfort, and being deliberate with how we show up every day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching and being a part of this conversation. If this episode brought value, share it, subscribe, and keep asking the questions that matter. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep asking for your space. And how will you be memorable today? Ask yourself. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Substack, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And Mark Cuban says it doesn't matter how many times you fail, you only have to be right one time. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful. Keep thinking the good thoughts, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.